Featherweight bout here. William Gomi coming in at minus 255 against Yanis Ghemmouri, who's coming in at plus 205. This was the rescheduled bout. Gomi was supposed to fight Lucas Almeida. Almeida pulls out. Ghemmouri, instead of fighting Logren, fights William Gomi. Now, this one's interesting. I'm kind of perplexed by this one because Logren was minus 300, minus 320 against Yanis Ghemmouri, and that was a bantamweight bout. Now Yanis is coming up to 145 because I think just wants to get on the card. And Gomi, who's had 2 UFC fights before, 2 UFC wins, and is a real featherweight, a big featherweight at that, is coming in at minus 255. So what does that really tell you about how high people are on Logren? It's pretty weird. Like, Gomi is less of a favorite when he's the bigger dude, more UFC experience, and just overall, I think the better fighter. So I'm kind of perplexed by this. I would think Gomi would be a bigger favorite, but at the same time, I also it's tough to take William Gomi at minus 255 because in his 2 UFC fights, he hasn't been that aggressive. He's won those fights, but he's winning them by staying at range. He doesn't land a ton of significant strikes, like 27 against Francis Marshall, 32 against Jarno Aarons. He's not doing a whole lot. Still managing to get the wins, but I wonder if that'll come back to bite him eventually, where he just doesn't do enough and he loses a decision where he probably should have beat this guy, but he doesn't. For Yanis Ghemmouri, like I said, he's from France. I think he's taking this fight because he wants to get on the card. He's probably going to be undersized against William Gomi. Ghemmouri has fought at catchweights and 145 before, but either way, I still think he's going to be a little bit smaller than Gomi. Gomi's pretty big and he's long, but big favorite in Gomi. You think he gets it done?
Yeah, it's a hard fight to predict because I think either way this fight goes, it's going to be uneventful. It's kind of going to be sloppy, in my opinion. You look at Gomi's first 2 UFC fights, majority decision over Jarno Aarons, which doesn't age well after he just got beat by Sungwoo Choi, and then a split decision over Francis Marshall, which some people thought he lost the fight, and that doesn't age the best, as Francis Marshall was just finished in the first round by a good fighter, but still, his wins aren't really impressive. He doesn't go out there and separate himself from these guys he's fighting at this level. Now, maybe he can do that against a guy like Ghemmouri, who, might not be as good as Francis Marshall or Jarno Aarons. It's just kind of unknown. For Gomi, though, he's relatively low volume, 1.97 significant strikes per minute in the UFC, and that's in, a 30 minutes of total fight time, I guess. And he's not really landing a bunch of volume, not a high pace. Striking defense is pretty good, and he's really long for the division. He's going to be 6 foot compared to Ghemmouri's, I think 5'9" is what that said. Yeah. It makes it tough for guys to find their range. He's shown he can wrestle a little bit in that first fight against Jarno when he needs to. In the past fights, I think sometimes he'll get outstruck by guys or get the pace put on him at times and then relies on that grappling, which is just kind of decent. It's nothing great. It's nothing, phenomenal. And then sometimes he'll just win these. I see, there's a couple split decisions on his record, and then the 2 in the UFC. He'll just kind of skate by and barely win these fights that could go either way. He is good when he uses his kicks from distance, I've noticed. But it's kind of scary that he's fighting a kickboxer who spent most of his career in kickboxing, fighting guys at range like that. So it's we don't really know what we're going to get with Ghemmouri. K1 kickboxing experience, good striker, does have power, and probably going to have a little more volume than Gomi, in my opinion. So I don't know. I look for Gomi to kind of get in the clinch, get up against the cage, do some work there, and just kind of make it ugly. And if it's at range, you just don't know what we're going to get. This could be anybody's ball game. But for the pick, I think Gomi's just going to get another annoying win, but not surprised at all if this Ghemmouri kid comes out there and just outstrikes him on the feet.
Yeah, it's hard to go against Gomi in this spot. He's won 10 in a row, and he hasn't really looked – he's looked good in the UFC as far as he's winning the fights, but at minus 255, it's how much could you really trust that if he's just going to go out there, stand at range and land 30 significant strikes? Do you really want to bet your hard-earned money on minus 255 that he's going to go out there and get the win? It is France versus France, so it's not like he gets some home cooking. I guess he is out of MMA Factory, so maybe they favor that big gym there, but probably not going to get the home cooking and what he was originally going to. But yeah, I'm going to go with Gomi for the sake of the pick.